Hey everybody, Dave here. I have changed a few things. You see behind me, there's actually a background. I'm not using a green screen right now. I'm hoping that that will help me to record videos more often. Is that going to change anything? Probably not. But I no longer have the excuse to say, oh, I have to pull out the green screen or whatever. So I can just start recording whenever. The other thing that I changed is my lighting and my camera. So it's literally the same equipment. It's just a C920 and some relatively cheap lighting that's over here and over here. I learned that if you increase your lighting a lot and then you can turn the gain down on your camera, then the image quality is a lot better. And that made a huge difference, actually. The problem is that in OBS Studio, which is the software I use to record my YouTube videos, whenever you mess with the video settings, and they're not like just the defaults, then you're going to notice that when you open OBS Studio, or periodically when you change things, it's just going to revert your settings back to what they were originally. I had no idea this was a thing because I never changed the settings. Now that I rely on the settings being different from the defaults, I have to change it literally every time I use OBS Studio. I've looked it up and this seems to be a problem with the C920. Maybe it's just a problem with OBS Studio. I don't know, but I decided to make an automation in Power Automate Desktop that will just set the video settings for me. So let me show you how easy it is to set my settings now that I have automated this. Let's do something to my C920 video settings to make sure we can tell a difference from before till after. So I'm going to open this up manually, click on Configure Video, and we're just going to hit Defaults on all of this. And actually, that's usually what happens. That's more closely aligned to what happens for real. So rather than just change this to random stuff, I guess I could just leave it at defaults, but I'm also going to pull the saturation all the way down, which makes me completely black and white. Click OK. And then I'm also going to hit the defaults here. Okay. So now things are just totally messed up. Click OK. And what is happening on the screen right here? I don't know what's going on there, but now and then weird things will happen like this, and it's because it's dropping the settings I had for the C920. So let's hit Control O and see it fix everything for us. So I hit Control O. I'm not doing anything else. Hands free on this at this point. It's going to go through the different properties for camera control and video proc amp. It's hitting defaults on each of them just to make sure any other settings are, go back to their defaults. But then it's going to set saturation, white balance, and gain. It's going to hit apply. It's going to go back out, change my FPS to highest FPS, go back in, fix the gain because OBS likes to just totally ruin that every time. And now it's done. And it's telling me you may now record awesome videos. And I can just do that whenever I want to, anytime it gets messed up. Yes, it took me 2 hours or so to develop this. Those 2 hours were well worth it. Not only was it interesting, but now forever, I don't have to worry about remembering those video settings. And I gotta say, it's just fun to watch. Just plain fun to watch. So in this video, we're gonna go through every single step of how I made that. It may not interest you, and that's why I showed you what it does up front. So this video is going to be a couple hours long. I would love to shorten it, but honestly, that's just how long it took me to figure certain things out. And I wouldn't say it had to be this difficult, but you'll see that I use a reusable desktop flow in this. We do a PowerShell script at one point, albeit somewhat simplistic, but we do a number of different cool things in this. And I just really had a lot of fun with it. Partially apologize for it being 2 hours, but at the same time, I figure if you're really interested in learning Power Automate Desktop and you want to see how other people develop in it to give you ideas and to help troubleshoot and stuff, and then maybe seeing every single step is the way to go. If you see anything that I could have done better, feel free to leave a comment in the video and I will read those and respond. And let's jump right into it. When I first started proofing out this automation, I wasn't even 100% sure that it was possible. I have already figured out most of the techniques that I'm going to use, and I've already built a working automation from end to end. But in this video, we are still going to go ahead and build everything from scratch, and I won't be looking at really a script exactly, other than what you see in front of you, which I'm going to have this off screen, but this is what I'll be looking at. And it's just going to tell me the order of the different clicks that I want to do, but this isn't telling me exactly how I want to do it. So I might change how I handle it based upon whatever I come across or whatever I think of. In some cases, we will move some windows and resize windows. That's just for the purpose of recording the video. You don't need to do that. I'm just doing it so that nothing is, actually behind me or behind the screen. So let's create a new desktop flow. You'll see I already have one called OBS POC, and that's where I built some of the initial logic that I want to just prove out and make sure that it's possible. So let's create a new desktop flow, and we're going to call this one also OBS, but let's call this one something like set C920 video settings, create. The easiest way to start is by choosing all of the UI elements that we're going to work with. And then after we have all of those, then we'll go over it and choose all the actions and then plug in the UI elements into each of those actions. So let's go to UI elements, click add UI element, and I'm going to bring the OBS Studio window over here. And we're only going to need a couple of things in here. You got like a little mirror effect going on here. So I'm not going to leave this on screen the whole time because that looks awful and hurts my eyes. But I'm going to spy two elements. The first one is going to be the C920 list item under sources. And then also this properties button. And now we've got both of those, and that's all I'm going to need. So I'm going to manually click on this properties button. We're going to need to spy the defaults button next, and then the resolution FPS type combo box. And just in case we need to next the resolution combo box, and then the FPS combo box. And then we need to click configure video. So let's go ahead and manually do that. Inside of this properties window, we're going to click the camera control tab. So let's get that one and manually click over to it. And the first thing we're going to do is set the zoom level to 120 if it's not already there. So let's spy this label. We're also going to turn both of these auto settings off. One thing I missed is that I'm going to need to click on this default button once I get into here. So let me go ahead and do that now. And I'm not actually intending to click the default button right now. I just want to have it spied. And then this low light compensation checkbox, we're going to turn that off. Then we're going to click on this tab item, video proc amp. Go back over to here. We're going to end up setting a couple of these sliders right here, but we don't need to spy them because I'm intending to reuse the one that we created up here. And we'll create a separate desktop flow that just handles any of these sliders. But we will need to uncheck this white balance auto checkbox. And then we will need the apply button. So let me change a value. Okay, and then we can spy this apply button while it's enabled. And then we'll spy this OK button. And I think that's all we need. So let's go ahead and go out. And then now that we're back in here, we'll need to spy the OK button. And then we'll cancel out. As we go in and out of the properties for the C920 here, it's going to mess up the gain settings. So I have to go in periodically and just fix that manually. But once we make this automation, I won't have to fix it manually anymore. Now that we've got all of our UI elements, or at least I think we have most of them, and if we need to add any more, it should only be a couple of them. So I'm going to click done. We have a whole list over here. You can see that they're separated into the two main different windows. Technically, we use 3 different windows, but Pad only sees the OBS actual windows as one, I guess. But this actually contains 2 different windows, but that's fine. Now that we've created most of the UI elements that we'll need, I'm going to go into each of them into the settings and just change the selectors wherever I feel like it might not be reliable. So let's look at this window first and edit this selector. I have a feeling, yeah, this looks like it'll be dependent upon OBS being version 27.0.1, and we don't want that. So let's uncheck this name, and we'll go ahead and check the ID, and we'll leave process as well for OBS 64. So those look like they probably won't ever change. And then we'll update. So that looks pretty reliable. And then the list item for C920. This looks, goodness. There's a lot going on here. These top ones look fine to me. ID and class. Group Q widget. So I don't know what this widget content 6 is, but I'm going to uncheck that. and hope that it's not necessary. Matter of fact, I don't know that we really need either of these, Q widget and Q frame. So let's just remove those, and if they break, we'll come back and add something back in. But then this widget content 6, I don't know what 6 means. That makes me nervous. We could obviously change these operators to something like starts with, and then as long as it starts with sources doc or something, that'd be fine. But I'm going to go ahead and uncheck this, and source tree, list item C920. So there should only be one list that I guess has a name of source tree that has a list item of C920. That should never, there should be never be a chance that there's two of those. So this should be pretty good. I don't know how performant this will be, but it should work. And if you're watching this and you're like, Dave, I wish you'd show us how to use this effectively. I can't find any documentation on this stuff. Yep. Welcome to the club. Microsoft has a little bit of documentation here, but it blows my mind that they don't think it needs to be better. Let me just say that if you look up CSS selectors and jQuery selectors that work for web automation, it works very similarly to that, except that you won't be using element types that are in web pages, like in HTML. It's instead going to be based upon, the actual window, how it was designed, and whatever its class names are and stuff like that. And then, it's got list item, window, whatever else. But it's still a very similar syntax. And so, like, here's a space right here. This means that it needs to find a window with these details. And then anywhere beneath or inside of that window, it will find a list item that has a class, or I guess a list that has a class of source tree. And I think that there's only going to be one of those. And then, but even if there is more than one of these, that's okay, because let's say there are two of these things, only one of them is going to have then a list item that's directly beneath it, which is this greater than symbol. This means this element has to be found directly beneath this element. But the list item has to have a name of C920. And since that's a custom name I typed, there can only ever be one of those because I only typed it one time. And let's go ahead and update this. Close, and then let's look at the button for properties. Yeah, I think we're going to have a similar kind of situation where we don't want it to use any of this widget content 6. Maybe it would never break. It's possible that never changes. I don't know. But we're going to go ahead and uncheck these to make them less complicated. And it's just going to be inside of the sources window with button name properties. And it also has a class of Q tool button. I don't know if that's helpful, but we're going to try this and see how it works. Button default. I think we're going to have a lot of these to do a similar kind of thing. Oh, no, this was different. So properties, OBS basic properties, the name properties for C920. Was this a window? Oh, this is, okay. This is the window that it's in. That should be fine. And then Q dialog button box, and then a button that has a name of defaults. That works for me. Combo box. The window, properties for C920, Q splitter, OBS properties view, Q widget. I don't think it's really necessary to remove this, but here I am removing it anyways. Just want to look at all these. The biggest thing I'm looking for is anytime it has an EQ1, which is like a match index, it's it's probably fine, but I don't want to use that. What we want to use instead is the names of things. And that is interesting that it does not have, this does not have an ID. And that was for, let's see, what was that for? I think it was for the first one. Yeah, this is going to be for the first box here. We definitely have a way to get around this. And what it will entail is, if there's no unique identifier for this combo box, what we can do is actually make an element for resolution FPS type for this label. And then when we click, we'll just click to the right of that, which we'll click here. And then we make another element that matches this word custom. Let's go ahead and change tactics now rather than wait till later. We're going to cancel this and we're going to go ahead and add UI elements. And instead of doing these, we're going to use the labels. And I'm actually going to create separate ones for each of these labels, even though I could do some kind of reusable logic for that, but I'm not going to right now. Okay, and then in here, we're going to spy this list item custom. We're going to spy this list item 1920 by 1080 and this list item for FPS 30 and highest FPS. Again, you could reuse this. You can make one element that's dynamic and then pass a value in to do, to select different items, but like, it's not a big deal to create some extra items. Okay, now that we've got those, okay, so it did create a separate section, and like I have seen a couple people mention on comments on previous videos, and I appreciate the comments. It is possible to grab these. It's slightly weird to do so, but you can grab these and drop them into a different section, but I'm going to leave them here so that it's easier for me to identify that I wanted to do something different with these items. And then later on, I might drag these elements and put them into this this list up here for this window, because this window and this window are technically the same thing. All right. And then, of course, one thing that would help is if we actually rename these, but yeah, I might not. So for now, I'm going to delete these three. I'll have to do them separately. Delete, delete, delete. You know, I said I wasn't going to move them up, but I think I am going to. Do I have to do them separately for real? Let's see. So this is after we hit properties, we hit defaults, and then we want to use these. So let's pull them up. So we want list item custom for this one. And then when we use resolution, oops. Okay, and then we're going to want this 1920 by 1080 under resolution, text FPS. And we're initially going to set the value to 30. And then we're going to change some settings and then come back and change the value to highest FPS. Wait, why is 1920 down here? This is supposed to be up here. I didn't mean to do that. What's going on here? Okay, I must have been accidentally dragging it in the wrong place. So we've got FPS type custom, resolution 1920 by 1080, FPS 30, and highest FPS. All right, and then we can delete this. And now it's organized. Probably could still rename these, but I'm going to leave them like they are because most of these are pretty easy to understand. You will probably see the video get kind of messed up periodically, or I'll get really bright, or the color of my skin will change drastically. That's just because OBS will mess up the settings when I open up the properties and then close it. Lots of people have that problem. So anyway, if you see things go crazy, it's because I'm messing with the video settings. All right, so now I don't know exactly where I am with validating these different things. I think we did C920, and then we've done the button for properties and the defaults button. Right, and then this is where we changed everything. So let's look inside of here and make sure that this will work. Yeah, we want to change this. Okay, so this one's a little better because at the very bottom, we've got text that we can use for the name. So it kind of blows my mind this doesn't use the name attribute by default, but I'm going to uncheck ordinal, which is what adds that EQ, or that what you could also call match index in Blue Prism. It's just telling you like, the first, second, third, whatever, of an element that matches all the details. So I don't want it to identify it as like the first one of a series of items that match all of the selector. I want a selector that uniquely identifies this one thing. So let's check the name attribute, and we can leave most of this other stuff. Let's make this less complicated though. I think the rest of these are probably fine. We'll leave it like this. And then we'll do a similar thing for the rest of these. Again, Q widget could probably stay. Okay, combo box, ignore scroll. That's fine. List, Q, combo box, list, view. I don't know that those are really necessary to have, but in this case, the value that we want to select is the one that says name custom, and then that should work. This looks like kind of a complicated, oh, you know what? I don't like this EQ. Why do we have that? Combo box, ignore scroll. We don't want this. Let's just remove this entirely. Yeah, that's a lot better. Got the window, and then Q splitter, OBS properties view, Q combo box, list view, list item name custom. Okay, so let's go ahead and leave this one. Text resolution, I probably, man, maybe I should use a dynamic element for this one. That's okay. I can go ahead and change this to be like the other one is. And that looks good enough to me. List item. We unchecked Q widget. And I think the first combo box line, we make sure that 1920 by 1080 is selected there. That looks good. Text FPS. So we want to uncheck the Q widgets just because they're cluttering up the selector. And I think all of that looks good, except for text FPS. We don't want ordinal 3. I don't think that's actually the third one. I think if we have... I think that'll work. We'll find out, but I'm going to uncheck ordinal. And, oh, right, it's probably just the third Q label, I see. So if I check the name equals FPS, then it should be unique like this. List item 30. This is going to be another one that's probably going to have the EQ in there. Oh, wow, it's automatically got the name as 30. Like, when does it use the name and when does it not? Like, I don't understand the logic here. Let's see, we don't... How is this checked? Okay. Oh, it's just a list. Okay, that's fine. Combo box. We don't want this Q widget. This is kind of a complicated selector too, but I don't really see any problems with this. It should probably always work. And Q widget. Make sure that highest FPS is selected down here. List, combo box, group. Again, that's a lot of stuff, but it should work. Here's the button for configure video. Remove Q widget. Name configure video, Q push button. Okay, that all looks fine. And the button OK. And that looks good as is. Cool. And then I guess there's some more down here that we need to change. Right, this is inside of the properties window. Oh, let's do the window itself and make sure that's going to be fine. So desktop window name properties process OBS 64. Yep. Sys tab control 32 tab item name camera control. That looks perfect. Which means that this tab item's probably good too. Text zoom. No. I mean, this would probably work. But we want name zoom, not ordinal. And then Right, this is the one though that we're going to change to use dynamic value, and we might actually put into a separate desktop flow. So we'll come back to that. What is this one? Checkbox button. Class button. What was this one? I think it's probably referring to like this one. So there's really no better way to identify that? Wow. And then what is this one like? Oh, that's wow. We might not have any option but to use ordinal here, because there's just nothing else. Now, granted, it's a checkbox, and on there, let's see, enabled. Let's just see what the other ones look like. So we've got one here, but that's not enabled. What's the difference? Okay, well, so probably if we include enabled in this, let me delete that second one. Okay. If we include enabled equals true, then we can probably change this this ordinal to 1. It has an ID of 1033. What does that mean? What is this one's ID? 1035. Sick. Okay, so that's not useful. But yeah, we can change enabled, check the enabled attribute, change the ordinal to, what was it? 0. Okay. So that, this isn't perfect. I don't know that I like this too much, but I've never seen these checkboxes be enabled. So this is something that you probably want to put exception handling around, probably put some checks around. But in my case, like if it messes up and it checks the wrong things, it's not a big deal. I'm just going to go fix the automation and then run it again. So I'm going to leave it like this and assume that the 3 checkboxes, I'm going to assume that the 3 checkboxes that are actually enabled are the only ones it might deal with. And so I'm going to set the value of the first checkbox to false, second checkbox to false, and then we're going to leave this one alone because I don't think it actually matters. All right, so any checkboxes we come across, we're going to be setting them to false. So I'm not even going to bother renaming these because it doesn't really matter which ones they are. Now, did I look at the default button already? Yeah, that one looks good. So button, class, button, name, default. I think that should be fine. Let's look at the selectors really quick. Yeah, weirdly, it doesn't give me the name of the window as like a higher level element that it needs to find this default button in. I'm not sure what's up with that. If you ever had 2 different default buttons, like one in one window and one in another window, I'm not sure how this would work out. But if it ever did it wrong, I'm sure we could handle it when we got to it. So I'm just going to leave this one like it is. And then the checkbox, what is this? Low light compensation. Okay, wait a second. I'm confused. Oh, this low light compensation checkbox works great. Like it knows it. Well, we're going to have to set that just because it's easy to do, even though I don't know that I really need to. Okay, so let's go ahead and look. Yeah, checkbox button, and its name is low light compensation. That looks perfect. That's what we want the rest of them to be, but they're not. All right, tab item video proc amp. So this is the other tab. That looks good to me. Checkbox button. This is, I've already forgotten how I did these. So let's just go in here, edit selector, go to custom, copy this. And we're just going to cheat on this other one. And actually, you know what? Let's go open that up and look at it again. It's going to be this one. And there's only one checkbox on here at all. So let's see if potentially what we can do is use this checkbox button to identify this element and this element, because they're both the first enabled checkboxes on the screen. I think that'll work. Okay, so let's click out of this and make sure it doesn't mess up my video. Hey, we're good to go. All right, so let's go down. We're actually going to delete this one then, because we don't need it anymore. And do we want to change the apply button? No, that looks good. And the OK button, this one also looks good. Okay, so that's all of the UI elements. We've spied all of them, or at least most of them, and we've set them up to make sure that the selectors, while they would technically work now, even if I hadn't changed those, they might not work tomorrow. You know, what if the version of OBS changes or something like that, so that it can't find the right window anymore? So I think that all of the changes we've made will work as long as the structure of the user interface of OBS doesn't change significantly. While normally when I go to start actually dropping actions into a desktop flow, I'd want to start with the easy stuff first. So launching an application or finding it or moving the window on the screen or something like that, kind of the starter steps. But in this case, I want to actually do the hardest part first, because we're going to put the hard part into an entirely separate desktop flow and use input parameters to tell it what we want it to do. So let me show you what we're designing. Let me open up the settings, and we're going to go into configure video. These slider controls are extremely difficult to work with as far as an automation goes. So a person can click on these, and actually it's even kind of annoying for a person to do. But if I were to grab like the saturation and drag it down, you could see like now I'm black and white. Now I've got, probably I look like I went, to a tanning bed for too long. And I've determined like this 172 with all the rest of the settings. This makes me maybe look a little bit paler than I really am, but it's close enough. I'm not worried about it. That's a little difficult to work with manually. It's even more difficult when you try to automate it. And the reason is you cannot set this value. So I've tried that. You can't actually like type into it manually either. And then you cannot easily uniquely identify this little tab control. And you can't identify this slider control either. And I say you can't, mainly because I don't know if this is an OBS Studio problem or a C920 problem. I don't know. I think it's an OBS issue. But when you design an application, you're supposed to design it to handle, helping vision impaired people and people with other disabilities. And that's through the accessibility settings that you would, put into the application. Things like alternate text for images and stuff like that. So that a screen reading application that does like text to speech, it can actually determine what the image is and read it out loud to a person who can't see very well. And RPA tools in general use that same technology to kind of interrogate the application and work with it. Well, OBS is not very good. It's actually pretty terrible. These things are not named uniquely. Some of these slider controls are named entirely wrong. So I think like this slider control at the very bottom is named backlight comp, whereas this slider control should be named backlight comp. So there's some weird things going on with this. And because of that, I'm not going to rely on the underlying names of these at all. Instead, we're going to use what a person would do, which is to look at this text label and then go to make a logical leap here that the slider control just to the right of it is the one associated with gain. And like right here, this slider control is associated with brightness. Well, how do I know that? Well, I'm just making a guess that whoever designed the app put the slider control next to brightness for a reason. And so it does work that way. Because it's slightly difficult to use, I'm going to build a separate desktop flow to handle that. And we're going to build one desktop flow to handle one slider, and then just call it repeatedly for each of the sliders we want to use. We will pass in the name of the label that we want it to work with, the value that we want it to, say, set here or maybe how far we want it to move to the right, or how far we want it to move to the left, and that kind of stuff. So we'll work through that when we get to it. Well, we're actually at it right now, so let's go ahead and work through that now. Let's go back over to Power Automate. So this is our primary flow that we're going to use to do all of this stuff. And this one is going to call this other desktop flow that we're about to make. So I'm going to just put that to the background for a second. We're going to create a new flow. For searching sake, I'm going to also prepend that one with the letters OBS. But in this case, I'm going to put the word action to tell it kind of like this is a reusable action that I'm building. I got kind of a custom library for myself to reuse anytime I want to work with slider control in OBS. So we're going to call this action. Can I put a colon? Yep. All right. Set slider control. And I might want to put like video settings, set slider control, something like that, just in case maybe there are other slider controls in OBS, but this is specifically in, let's see, video settings. We'll just call it video settings, maybe properties or something like that. But anyway, let's click create. And then let's move this window up here so it's above me. And we are going to create some input parameters. I may have to change this once I figure out exactly how we're going to do this, but I know for one thing we will need a label. Okay, label is a reserved keyword. Sick. Let's go with text label. And then let's go to data type of text. The default value, I don't know that we need a default value, but maybe for debug and testing's sake, we could put the default value to be something that maybe doesn't matter as much. White balance probably would be a good one because that one requires changing the value quite a lot. Okay, let's go ahead and just put, what was it? White balance? Yeah. White balance. The external name of this. Okay, so that's cool. This is the first time I've tried to make them different. So the variable name inside of this flow is going to be text label, but the name of this two external components that call into this desktop flow, the external name of it's going to be label. So this will be the text of the label. Oh, wait, the slider controls label text. All right. And then the other thing we want to do, we have two ways to handle this. We could either read the value that's here. Well, I guess we're doing white balance. We could read this value and then do a little math. So have the calling flow tell us what's the result kind of number that we want to be here, and have this compared to whatever they want it to be, and then we determine, do we move this to the left or do we move it to the right? And while that sounds fun, that's a little more complicated. So instead, I'm just going to click into here, and then we're going to hit like the home key, which I'm really blue now, or the end key, and then move backwards a certain number of well, these, I don't know what these numbers are. A certain number of numbers, settings, notches. I don't know. There's a noun that works there. To get to 5500, because I've found 5500 to be close enough to my actual skin tone, and so it's going to go from what 6500 to 5500. So what I could do is tell the desktop flow that's calling this passes in like a number of 1000, and it tells me I want you to go to the end and then go back 1000. So let's create two more input parameters of, let's just make this really clear. Home or end. And we're going to name this external one home or end as well. Whether to press home or end before using send keys to change the slider controls value. Create. Oh, we need a default value. Yeah, let's make the default value probably home. I think most of them will start from the left side. I don't know why it doesn't say home there yet. It says white balance here, but it doesn't say the initial value there. That's weird. Okay, let's go with, we'll call this relative value. And we'll, we don't want a default value for this. Okay. The point of this though is, let's say you want to change white balance from 6,500 to 5,500, then your relative value will be 1,000. So the relative value would be 1,000. And so, okay, let's go. The value for how much to change the slider controls value. That may not be super clear. This is also interesting. This probably should be a number, right? But that's not an option for a data type. And so when we get to it, we're just going to multiply whatever value is given here by like 1, and that changes the variable's data type to a number. Kind of unintuitive, but it works. Okay, oh right, so I should probably change my color balance back down to a little bit more normal for a little bit. Okay, let's save this in case my desktop just crashes, and then we've got our inputs. All right, now that we have those, we're going to use them. So first thing is we need to have a UI element to click on one of these. We've actually already made one, but it was in the other desktop flow. So let's just go to UI elements. We'll go ahead and create this again for white balance. And then in here, let's edit the selector. Here, we're just going to make this dynamic. Let's see if this works. What was it again? It was like label or something, text label. And so what this does for me is it looks for a text element that has a class of static and a name of whatever is passed in. Let's update this. And I want to change the name of this to be like dynamic label. Let's make sure that this looks good. Window property. Okay, yeah, that looks good. We want to click on the dynamic label. Click a UI element. Let's choose our UI element. And are we left clicking? Yes, I think we're left clicking. Now here's the interesting part. When you click on an element, you can choose for it to click somewhere, do a mouse click that is relative to the location of the UI element, but not necessarily directly on the UI element. And that's what I found to be the most reliable way to handle these controls, or at least as far as selecting them. Feel free, if you have OBS Studio, to try this out. I think you'll find the same thing that I did, which is that these slider controls are actually just the worst. But with UI automation, with automated user interfaces, there's always a way to do it. It just depends how much effort are you willing to go through to make it happen. And okay, so when we click on this, it would just literally click the label, right? So let me show you that. So we're clicking right in the middle of the label. It's going to click on whatever our default was, which is white balance. So let's run that from the beginning. I'm just going to save the flow in case I crash the program. So it should, well, that's interesting. Oh no, it worked. Yeah. So it clicked on white label right in the middle of it, and that's fine, but that doesn't help us select this slider control. So instead, I'm going to have this click to the right of the label. So it should go directly to the right, and I need to tell it what the offset is. So we want to do what I think actually would happen here if we didn't change this offset XY, let's try it actually. I think what it'll do is click slightly to the right of the element. Let's test that out. I've never actually done this before. Will it click slightly to the right, but still on white balance? Yeah. Wow, that's pretty cool. It went like all the way to the right side. Okay, so that means that if we, did any of these others, it would just kind of rotate it to clicking around, not the middle, but like other parts of the element. So what I want it to do is, I don't even know if I have to click this. I might could click in the middle or have it do the middle, but then the offset of X, which would be this direction. We need the offset like, I don't even know, 100? Is that too far? Let's try like 80. Let's run this. And what it should do is click somewhere around in here, I'm hoping. Okay, so yeah, I didn't go quite as far as I was expecting. Let me change that to more like 150. Let's try that again. And now it should click more in the middle. Yeah. Let's try 130. I want it to be in the middle as much as possible, just so that we can handle any variations in the size of this window. So if this, I don't think it's possible to resize this window, but just in case, like say I changed the resolution on my machine, hopefully even with a resolution change, this click would still work. Even if it were like, oh, it ended up way over here, or if it ended up way over here, it would still work. Once we've clicked this, now this is selected. So if I use the arrow keys on my keyboard, you can see it's changing the value of the white balance. I'm doing right, and now I'm doing left, and now I'm doing right. So we can use that same concept for automating it from pad, and but you have to click on it first. So once you've clicked on it though, I guess what we can do now is send the home or the end key based upon whatever so let's change our default value actually. For this, I want to change to end because we're testing with white balance. And then when we click on the element, then we want to send keys. What do we want to send? The home or end key. So in this case, we're going to do, you know what? I think I'm going to try something here. I don't know if this will work. I can't help but try new things. So let's put in the name of the variable right in here. Actually, let me tell you what I'm going for first. So first what you do is this, maybe left. So this is syntax that you use for send keys. And something I found that's weird is that at least in Blue Prism, and I've looked up send keys before that Microsoft has, syntax that you can use is like this to actually like send the left arrow key as a simulated or a hardware key click to an application. And so if I do this, it'll send the left arrow key and it'll go to the left one. But in Blue Prism and other tools, you can do something like this. So left 20 with a space between it and with curly braces around, and that will send the left arrow key 20 times. But for whatever reason, that doesn't work in here. I have no idea why. I've tried typing all kinds of different things to make that work, and it just doesn't. So we only have the option of this, or we can do this, right? That'll send like left really fast. But the best option I think that we have available to us is to use this one time and then put it inside of a loop. And then when we're in debug mode, we're going to change this run delay. Wait, can you see this? Yeah. So this run delay is at 100 milliseconds by default when you open up pads like editing viewer or whatever. You change that to 1 millisecond, and then it's going to run a whole lot faster. Now, let's take it a step further, though. We have our input parameter for, oh, we don't have that. Okay. We got to create one because that'll make this a little bit easier. We're going to go left or right. Let's make this as flexible as we can. So left or right. Whether to change the value of the slider control to the left or right. When we go to use either home or end, or we go to use left or right, we are going to use an if statement to verify that any value was passed there at all. If no value was passed for one of these, then we just won't use it. But for now, we won't put the if statement in. We'll just make it work. Did we put a default value? So our default is going to be end. I know it says home there, but we changed it to end. And then our default is going to be to go to the left. So hopefully I can put that directly in here. Whoops. I'm the worst. Left or right. Okay, so that should change to left or right depending on what was entered. Delay between strokes. We don't want any delay. Send text as hardware keys. We don't need that because we should be able to use virtual keys or whatever it's called, send keys. So we're going to click. This is not right. We actually want this to be home or end. Home or end. And then we can copy this. And we want this to be left or right. And then we'll need to put a loop around this thing. We're going to start from 1. And we're going to end at whatever was passed in. So relative value. Increment by 1. Wait, parameter, most experience, a numeric value. Right, so this is the weird part with variables. Let's see if it will fix the error if I do this. So we want to set relative value equal to relative value times, relative value times 1. I think that's how you do it. Oh, it works. How does it know? It's smart. Okay. Do we have a default value in relative value? We do not. So let's put 1,000. Probably shouldn't have done 1,000 for the first time, but that's okay. And remember, the other thing is to change your run delay to, you can't change it to 0. I've tried that, but you can change to 1 millisecond. And what I first thought this meant was that it's just the delay when you click run, that it would delay that long before it starts running. But actually, this oh my gosh, it even says the description there. But yeah, this is the time interval to wait between actions. Oh my goodness. Anyway, so yeah, you can, that's upsetting. But yeah, this is the amount of time between actions. And so, like when I've run in previous videos, show how it's faster when you run from the console, compared to running in this debug mode. It's only because we have the run delay at 100 milliseconds by default. So 100 milliseconds will have to happen between each of the stages. Wow. Okay, so let's drag this in here. Send the following keystroke. So I don't know that this is actually going to work right. It might actually literally send the curly braces, but hopefully it will resolve to left or right and then do it correctly where it sends the, the actual keys. I'm probably going to have to test this with like a lower number, but let's just see how this works out. Okay, so we're going to click, send the keystrokes for home or end, multiply relative value by 1 to make it become a number, then loop from 1 to whatever is in this relative value, increment by 1 each time, and each time we loop, we're going to send the left or right key based upon whatever was passed in through the input. So ideally, this will go to 6500 and then change back to 5,500. That's really slow. Okay, we are not waiting for that. So, unfortunately, that means it's going to be hard for us to test this. All right, before we actually change this, let me just, I feel like I need to make this better where it's going to go a lot faster, but let's just try this from the console and see if it happens to run much faster. If this runs a lot faster from here, then we might just leave it. Okay, let's run this. Oh, okay, relative value 1,000 and white balance left. I mean, that's going a lot faster, but that's still extremely slow. Wow. That got pretty slow. I don't think that's going to be okay with me. That took way too long. So what we need to do now is play around with this properties window and see if there's a better way. What I'd love to say is that we could have it click this, drag it. Okay, here's what we're going to try. I don't know if this is going to work quite right, but like that's too slow. And we'll have to figure out how to make this still reusable, but for the time being, we could just test it. So we can go left or right. We need to basically build a string that has, you know what? I think we could do that. Yeah, we'll do this manually first, but I think this could work. Let me just paste this 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Just want to see how this will work. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. My hope is that if it sends left or right 100 times in groups, then it will only take 15 times. Wait, no, I can't do math. It'll only take 10 loops of this to reach the goal. So temporarily here, I'm going to ignore the end 2. Oh, wait, no. We could still do... I'll have to think about that. Let me just change this to 10 for the time being. And save this in case I crash the programs. We're going to move this here. It should go to the end and then come back 1,000. Whoa! It works! That's crazy. It was accepting 100 like left arrow keys at the same time. Okay. Well, problem solved. So now we just have to think about how to make this thing reusable. And I think that shouldn't be too difficult. We might have to make some more confusing inputs though. And what I think should happen is we will take the input of relative value. So we want it to change by 1,000. And we could give another input that lets you decide like grouping. So key grouping, or let's call this like send key group amount. And the number of send keys to group together for each loop. And this is going to have to get multiplied by 1. So here, send key group amount. To change that from text to number. And I guess I guess we want our default value to be like, we're grouping it by 100. And then the relative value is still going to be 1,000. So I think at the very beginning, we'll need to build this. So let's, I think the value we'll send is something like send key. We'll go send keys. And then we need to set that here. So we'll set send keys to send keys and left or right. Something like that, I think. And we'll need to loop. We're going to start from 1, increment by 1, and we're going to go to the same number as the send key group amount. And put this in here. So the goal is to loop through sending or adding text to the send keys that we're going to use down here in each loop. And we're going to have one key of left or right that we will add each time we loop through this up to the number of send keys that are added in a group. If I make this group amount 100, then the end of this should result in 100 left or rights. I don't know if that number will come out correctly. So let's try, let's kind of like run this, and it shouldn't do anything besides do the home or end. Let's disable this actually, so it doesn't mess up my video just while we're testing this. Now remember that when it clicks over here, it is going to likely change this by like 1. So it'll go down to like 4,499. And then it will set up this send keys variable, and then it'll stop, and then we can look at it. So okay, we need to pause this, stop, and change our run delay to 1 millisecond and try this again. So now it's going to go down to 5,498. Okay, so this is a lot faster. So this is still kind of slow. That was still kind of slow. I suspect, though, that if we ran this from the console, it would go a whole lot faster, but we don't want this to take forever, even when we're debugging. So I think the way we can handle this is by supporting a specific, we could support specific numbers, like, you know, like 1, 10, 50, 100. But then we need to deal with whether it's left or right. The other thing we could do is just support allowing the calling desktop flow to pass in the full text that it wants to here. So if you wanted to, manually, you could just manually have the text ready that has left in it 100 times. That could work. I don't like that though. Okay, here's what I think we're going to try. Trying all these things, it just doesn't feel quite right yet. So instead of doing this in pad, like directly using, a set variable and loops, it's only going slow because of this run delay of 1 millisecond between these. And I think it would go a whole lot faster if otherwise. So let's try using something like PowerShell. And I don't know PowerShell well enough to remember the syntax for this, so I'm probably going to have to look it up. But we could run some PowerShell, and it could just take the value that we want. Wait, let me go grab that. So we want to set this variable based upon this. So we might be able to actually do a similar thing here. I don't know exactly how this is going to work. Do you just reference variables directly in here like normal? Okay, let's see what this says. Execute some custom PowerShell script. Retrieves its output to a variable. Accepts a text value. You know what? I don't know if you could just use, let's test this really quick. So if you just put like, I don't know, let's put some text. I think if I remember right, you can do write host, and we could just do this. And then let's, wait, how do you get the variable out of here? Oh, here, PowerShell output. So we could see what's in that. Let's run from here. Okay, PowerShell output test text. That looks good. Let's see if we can get a variable in this. Let's try. I don't remember what variables I have. Variable. Let's do left or right, like that. Ooh, wow. Look at that. It's got left. Okay. All right. This might work. So what I'm expecting is that because this doesn't have to run in a loop, at least not a loop that pad sees, this loop would just kind of run inside PowerShell. And while it technically, there's no reason PowerShell would be any faster than pad, I think that the fact that it's not tracking each of the actions occurring inside of pad, it should be like a lot faster, kind of like an encapsulated run or whatever. Okay, we need a loop of this, and it needs to loop, but we need to actually change the value of something. At the end, we can write host for send keys. Oh, you know what? Let's go. Let's do a value. Let's go text equals. Actually, we can just go left or right. Left or right. Left or right equals left or right. Now we've got a variable inside of PowerShell that is where its scope is only inside of the script. We're at the end. Let's see what we want. Send keys. Okay. Equals left or right. But we need to append it. How do you append in PowerShell? Okay, right. That makes sense. It looks it's just plus equals. Okay. I think I remember these things, but I don't. Okay, send keys. So we need a loop around this thing. Oh, you can't tab it over. Oh, that's gross. This looks like C# actually. So for I equals 0, I LT, I think that's less than 10 I plus plus. Okay, and then we're gonna need some curly braces. Guess I can't, let me just, that makes that look better. Okay, so for I equals 0, I don't know if that's gonna loop the number of times we want. Oh, I equals I less than 100. Okay, so what we can do is, I guess we could just put this directly. Let's go, loop times, and then this should equal whatever our variable was for, is this going to be the send key group amount? I think that it is. And then that's how many times it'll loop. It should add left or right to that. We actually need, I don't know how this will work. Is that right? It should add curly braces with left or right inside of it. I guess this is the only difference, is that pad is going to replace this variable, but PowerShell, I don't understand how they have PowerShell ignoring this. Maybe because it's inside of quotation marks and PowerShell would ignore it anyways. That seems reasonable. And at the end, we're going to write host send keys. Is this going to work? Something's going to go wrong. Let's just test it. So what we expect to come out of this is like left 100 times. How will I even know if it did that? I'm not going to count all of them. Wait, script error. The term left is not recognized as the name of a commandlet function, script file, operator program. Spelling the name over path. Okay, here. Okay. That's okay. It's okay. I think I know what I can do here. If I remember right. I think I can put an @ symbol at the beginning of this. Oh. I see what, no, it's probably not even that. It's probably this one. I didn't have quotation marks around it. And for whatever reason, it's still working. I don't know why it gave me an error, but then did it anyways. That's maybe just how PowerShell does. But I think I can put this @ symbol at the beginning and it would have removed the error if this is what it had a problem with, but I don't think it is now. Okay, so let's save this and let's try this one more time. And I think this time we'll get what we want without a script error. Huh? No error? Oh, okay. We got to find out how many of these there are, though. I don't know how many there are. Oh, man. Let's... How do I test this? I guess it would just... I guess we need to change... Okay, let's see here. Send key group amount. And it would do... Oh, that's right. I don't need any of this anymore. What? Send keys does not exist. But it does. It's right here. I guess... Oh, it's right host send keys. Oh, okay. Okay. No, we're good. We want to right host. So instead of doing send keys, I changed this value to the PowerShell output. Okay, and it's going to loop. It's looping 10 times, but we don't want that. We want it to loop. I guess we want it to loop relative value divided by, wait, am I doing divided by right? Is that a forward slash or a backslash? Yeah, divided by send key group amount. Because if you say, oh, I want to change the value by 1,000, but then I want you to do groups of 100. Oh, what's going on here? There. So change the value by 1,000, but I want you to do groups of 100. So you only change by 10. So divide 1,000 by 100, you get 10. It'll loop from 1 to 10, and we should get this thing. Okay, so we can enable this again. It should go end and then go down by 1,000. Oh man, is this gonna work? Here I thought this was gonna be a quick video, but no, we're doing PowerShell scripts. Okay, let's remove this and run this. Now let me change it to something random. Okay, so it didn't like something. I don't know what it is though. But like, it complained. You may not have been able to hear that, but my computer was like dinging every time. Like, it makes the same noise as like if I try to hit a key right now. Like I'm hitting the letter D on my keyboard, and the program's just being like, that doesn't count. That's not a letter I recognize. You can't type that here. So I'm not sure why it's doing that. Let's step through this and see what happens. You know what we can do? Let's run this with a 100 millisecond delay. Do the same thing again. And then see if that makes a difference. Okay, every time it loops, it's making that beeping noise. So it doesn't like something that we're sending to it. And I don't know what that is. It appears to be looping the right number of times, though. It's doing send keys, and it is actually... Let's copy this. And let's paste it into here. Oh. Wonder if that's it. Let's see. Save. And we are going to run from... Oh, no, I guess we can run the whole thing again. But this time, it'll ignore the various inputs, and it's instead going to just do this left, left, left manually. Okay, I don't hear any noises, which means that something... there's probably just an extra key that's coming out of it that it didn't like. I think that's what's going on. PowerShell, when we combine this... It had... No, it's just combining the text. Right host. I think that's what's going on. Let me see if there's just a... No, right host is going to be the right thing. How do I delete... I think what we need is a way to delete the character. I think there's like a character down here that we have to remove. Do we have something like that? Text. Change text. Escape. Replace. We could replace the text in PowerShell output. Text defined. Okay, we need... Ooh, use regular expressions. Okay, regular expression for line return. Oh, it's just like \n. So let's use a regular expression, do \n, and then we're going to replace with nothing. I don't know if... How do we put nothing in here? Is that possible? It may not. I don't know if that's going to work. Ignore case, activate escape sequences. Okay, and then there's the replaced value. Let's try it. Uh-oh, replace with can't be empty. I mean, see, like, how do you do an empty value? It's actually gonna put two quotation marks when I do this, though, I think. So we want to run from here. And then if I look at the end of this, yeah, it's got quotation marks at the end. So I need an empty value. How do you have an empty value in pad? I got it. Okay. Okay, let's do this. What we'll replace is not just an end of line character. We will replace. I don't actually know what this does in a regular expression. Let's see here. Escape curly braces in regular expression. I'm a professional Googler, don't worry. Okay, yeah, so I don't know if this will work, but we might have to do like a backslash to escape this. We'll see. So we're going to actually replace this with curly braces. Let's try this again. Run from here. Did it work this time? Replaced. It looks like it worked. Okay. Everybody, just be calm. This is going to work. Okay, we can change this back now to power. Wait, we need replaced value. And then save this. And let's run it. I think it's going to work. Oh, I didn't remove the delay. That's fine. It's working. And I don't hear any dinging. So that means that it removed the new line character, and that new line character is what was giving us the error. And you saw it was still working before, but what it was doing is it was sending 100 left arrow keys and then a new line character, and you can't type a new line character into this window. Well, I think that's all we need now. I think that is literally it for this whole action. Most of this video is just going to be making this action. I'm so sorry. This is so much time. I think we can call this reusable action good to go. And we're going to close this now. And now go back to our primary workflow and start dragging our actions on and actually building this thing. It took me like an hour to make that reusable desktop flow. Now, I don't know how much time will actually end up in the final video because there might have been minutes where I'm just staring at the screen, not knowing what to do. But yeah, it took me an hour to do that. That was really fun though, especially the PowerShell part. I've used PowerShell before, but not like a ton. So it's not like we did anything complicated. It was just appending text to a string, but that was still fun. So let's go ahead and actually do the point of this video now. I'm going to use all of the UI elements and also that reusable desktop flow throughout this, and we're just going to go one click after another. So I've got my OneNote page. Remember here that it's like partially wrong, I've discovered, but like that's fine. When we get to it, I'll just fix the problems. And let's go for it. So first thing I need to do is use a while loop. There's no while loops. Oh, maybe I just need a loop. Oh, loop condition. Okay, iterates a block of actions as long as a specified condition proves to be true. First operand. So if I just want it to loop forever until I tell it to stop, then I'll just do like 1 = 1. There we go. That should loop forever until I exit the loop. Or I could just, tell it to stop. So let's click the source. So we want to double click an element. C920. Remember, that's this. So we're going to like double click here. Okay. And we want it to double click. Save that. And then we want to move the window that appears so that it's going to be kind of in this area on the screen. So let's go find window actions. There should be a move window. We want to move, which window are we moving? I think we actually have to create an element for this. So let's add UI element. I'm going to double click. Oh, you know what I just realized a minute ago? Is that we spied the properties button that's right here. So we spied like this button, but we're not actually going to use it because we're going to double click here. Whatever. Okay. Which one are we doing? We're doing this whole window. And then let's window property for C920. And then let's choose that in the list down here. You know what I need to do though is probably fix that. So I'm going to set it to X600. This is something I played around with yesterday, just figuring out where on the screen I'd like it to be. So we're going to try 600, 100, and then we want to resize that window, but I need to make sure that this is correct. Okay, that looks good. So let's do resize this window. We want a width of 400 and height of 600. I called it X and Y for some reason. That should be width and height, but that 400, 600 should work. And then we want to click the defaults button. So that's going to be, where's my window? Okay, so this is going to be the defaults button. So let's click that. Defaults button. We're going to left click it. And then save. So one thing I want to do before I forget is it looks like I didn't put this in my list of steps for some reason. I want to actually wait for a key to be pressed. So it's called something like wait for key press or wait for shortcut key right here. I'm going to put that inside of my loop, and the shortcut key is going to be Control plus O, and continue flow on run timeout. No, save. All right. So whenever this loop starts, it's just going to wait for me to press O. And let me just disable this for a moment. Let's make sure that this window is closed. And it should go to here. So I'm going to hit run. Yeah. It'll wait for me to press Control O. So this could just be, 5 hours, 6 hours, and it'll just be waiting forever. And then at some point when I'm working with OBS Studio, I see my video settings get messed up, then I'll just hit Control O. It should double click on the C920 list item and then move the window to right here. So that looks good. And then you see what it did is it came back up, and because the 1 still equals 1, it's going to go up and wait for shortcut key, and it should sit there and wait forever until I press it again. The idea there is if I'm working in OBS Studio and if maybe I go and click around a minute and it messes up the settings, this thing is still waiting for me. I can just do Control O whenever I want. So the other thing I want to do before I forget, I guess this will be at the very end, but I'd like it to go ahead and be here, is I want to display a message at the very end saying that it's done. Okay, you may now record. Awesome. videos. Information. Okay, so one of the options I really like here is, well, keep message on top, but also close message box automatically. So I'm going to check that, and then the timeout's going to be 3 seconds. Click OK. I'm going to run this again. I'll need to manually close this window just so it's not open. Actually, what happens if I... Okay, yeah. So when I open it again, it's actually, you'll see that it's off screen like this. And so it's going to have to actually move it every single time. So let's run this. It's going to wait for me to press the shortcut key. I'm pressing it now. It's just double clicked. It got the window. Now the window's been moved and it's resized it. And now it says I can record awesome videos. And you see that it didn't wait for me to click the OK button. It just, now I could have clicked OK and the window would have went way faster. It waited 3 seconds, closed the window, and then it looped back up again. And now it's waiting for me to press Control O again. All right, so this click defaults button is something that I'm probably going to leave disabled for a little bit. That's something that we will probably want to click, but I'm not 100% sure that it's necessary to. So we'll leave it disabled though for now. The idea is it would just put everything back to default in case I ever messed up the settings on my own. And then I could run Control O, here, and it would fix all of my settings for me. So we'll see about that. All right, so the next thing in that window, let's see, where's our window? We want to set these 3 combo boxes. So we want to set this one to custom. You actually want to set it all just like what it shows here. When you click defaults, it's going to change this to be device default. And then resolution, I guess, just won't have a value. And then FPS, I don't know, it says something else. Let's go to the UI automation stuff. It seems like there we go. Here's a drop-down list. So let's try doing set drop-down list value in window. No. Okay, that's not going to work because what I found was that the combo boxes were not reliably identifiable. Okay, so scratch that stuff. Instead, we're going to click on a UI element. We're going to do something similar to what we did in the reusable desktop flow from earlier. We're going to click for resolution type. But when we do this left click, we're going to click when the position relative to element, we're going to do an offset of something like maybe 100. For that's the X, and we're going to leave the Y the same because in here, resolution FPS type doesn't look like it matters how small the window is. It's always going to be just to the right. And I think 100 pixels should be like maybe somewhere around in here. And that should be just fine. Even if the window is small or large, that should always work. Okay, and then let's save. Once we've clicked that, then we'll next need to click on the option that comes up underneath it. Let's make sure that when we copy, I'm going to take this offset off. Change this to click on the list item custom, which is right here. We're going to have it click that. Remove the advanced settings. Okay, let's click that. So let's try doing that. We'll put a breakpoint and it should work. It might mess up my video settings when I do this, but I'm not sure. There should be a run from here. Why is there not a run from here? Run from here is not available. Did I do something wrong? What's going on? Run from here. Hello? Something's going on here. Does it have something to do with it being inside this loop? Oh, I can do run from here on this. That's very weird. Okay, let's try this slightly different. We'll make a subflow, see if that will work. Set video settings. And then I'm just going to copy almost all this. Just cut and we're going to paste into here. And then let's run a subflow. Choose the subflow. And now let's see if I can go in here. Okay, yeah, so run from here is available. I don't understand why you can't do a run from here inside of this loop. Like, okay. Now that's one thing. Maybe it had something to do with it being this being disabled. Let's see if I can still do it. I don't know. I'm going to copy this one, paste it, move it down. And I just need this as a placeholder for just a second for clicking on resolution. I just needed something I could put a breakpoint on. And now I'm going to right click this. Is it open already? Yeah. I'm going to right click on this and let's see if it can choose from the combo box. Oh, looked like it worked and it did not mess up my video. Cool. So let's go ahead and stop this. All right, the next thing will be to click into this resolution. Now, that's interesting. If you click in the middle here, we may need to, can we type? Whoa. There, it messed up my video. So I may need to actually have it click on this arrow. But if I hit defaults again, it's going to mess up everything. And then I hit custom. When I click into this, okay, yeah, it is definitely not bringing it up. So I could just have it type. Oh, wow. See, it's autofilling. Why is it autofilling? Can I paste that? Okay, I can paste this in here. So I think that's how we're going to do it. We're going to click into it and paste. Let's try that. So when we click into resolution, it's going to have an offset just like the other one did. Yeah, this time instead of clicking on a drop down, that's not going to work, which means that this 1920 by 1080 is not useful. So let's delete that. And instead, let's set to the clipboard because I want to paste. So we're going to set 1920 by 1080 into the clipboard. And then we will paste. Let's see if there's a paste. No, that's cells. So we might need send keys. Control V. I'm not sure how that works exactly. I think Control V. This is a little different syntax than I'm used to seeing. Okay, well, we might want to test that, but we'll come back to it. We're going to set the FPS, so we'll click the FPS. We want it offset by 100. Right, when we click here, and we're going to choose 30 to begin with. So we're just going to click another UI element. We're looking for 30. And then after that, we are going to go to configure video. So at this point, we could just have it stop. So let's put a placeholder, click that I can put a breakpoint on. I'll go ahead and choose the right thing though. Configure video, save, and we'll put a breakpoint. And then we want to start this up here. We've got this open. It is going to hit, it looks like we do want defaults actually. We're always going to need that. Let's go ahead and close this and we're going to run it from all the way up here. And let's see if it messes up anything. Double clicked. It's going to move the window. Choose custom 1920 by 1080 and FPS 30. Wow, that was pretty good. And then I guess it can click configure video next. So we could actually just step and make sure that that works. Cool. At this point, we want to handle moving that window as well. So we're going to do another move window. Let me just copy the one that's up here. Where's the copy and paste it down here. We're going to move the configure video, or not the configure video window. We want to move this window right here to, I figured this out before, we want it at 900x and at a y of 0. No need to resize this window because it cannot be resized, or if it could be, you know, at least a normal user can't, so I'm just going to leave it. And then the next thing it'll do is click the camera control tab. So let's go ahead and add that in. Click the camera control tab. And then let's have it stop there. So I guess what it will do is do a little pop-up message at the end. So let's save it. And then we'll run this from the beginning, which means we need to have this closed and this closed. Run. It's going to wait for me to do Control O, so I'm going to do that now. And then it should double click the list item, bring the window over, set those 3 settings, and then click Configure Video. And then it should click, well, I guess it moved the window and then clicked Camera Control. It did mess up my video settings by this point, but that's okay. I'm going to drag this back over. For now, I'm just going to keep manually doing it until, I mean, you can see already, right? Like this happens kind of a lot. It typically only happens when I'm editing settings in OBS Studio, but I haven't figured out which settings will actually affect it. But for sure, when you're inside of the video settings here, it will like just randomly affect the gain, especially when you've changed these down here. And I change stuff like that kind of often, and I don't want to have to remember all these settings. So funny thing, I may actually use this automation for myself. Let's hit stop. Wait, why did it? Hold up. Was there a breakpoint? Shouldn't have been a breakpoint. That's weird. It should have run all the way. Oh, right. Of course, it displayed the message, and then it was waiting for my input again. It should in fact keep going forever. Okay, now inside of this subpage, let's go to the next thing, which is going to be setting the camera control settings. I guess we could do some. We could split this up into multiple subflows. So let's do that. Let's create, let's see here, set camera control, and we'll just move this one over. Okay, so this will put us into the camera control tab, which is right here. We'll set things in here, and that's what will be on this subflow. Okay, so then after we click over here, then we want to set the zoom to 120. So here's our run. We need to run desktop flow. We're going to choose OBS action video settings set slider control. It's going to ask us for a few inputs. In this case, our label is zoom. Whether or not I push, whether or not to hit home or end, it looks to me like, you know, I mean, let's see, is this actually affecting it right now? It looks like this isn't affecting it right now, but if I were to change this to here, then it'd be zoomed all the way into my face like that. So I think we'll hit home like this, and then it'll send right arrow keys to get to 120. So we'll do home. And then the relative value, I want it to change by 20. And it's going to send right arrow keys. The group amount could actually just be 20. So that it just does it one time. I kind of like that idea. It should work. It would divide 20 by 20, get 1. Should only loop 1 time. We'll try that. And then we need to set the focus auto setting to off. So we need to, let's search for checkbox. Set check, okay, that's a web page. Set checkbox state in window. So we want the first checkbox. This is the one where we don't really have good identifiers. So I'm going to go to checkbox 1. Well, it doesn't say 1, but we'll count this as checkbox button 1. And we want to set this to unchecked. I'm going to copy this and go ahead and set checkbox button 2 to unchecked so that it unchecks both of these. And then I guess we'll just do the third one as well. This one actually had the right name. What was it? Low light compensation. Checkbox. Okay, so it should uncheck each of those 3 checkboxes. I believe this is always going to be -5. It's important for this to be -5, but every time I've tested, it's always defaulted to the right value. And the other thing is, I guess I technically should have it click the default here, but I don't really think that's necessary. I suppose we should go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and have it click default. And this is before it does the slider controls. Button. Let's see, that's not the right default button. This one. Okay. So it should click default, then it should set the zoom level, uncheck these boxes, and then it shouldn't set anything else. That should be good. Okay, and then we are going to need, what was this, the other one? It's going to be set video proc amp. Set video proc amp. We're going to copy this UI element, click, change this to, instead of clicking on camera control, to click on video proc amp right here. Save that. Okay, when we hit default here, I think that it's going to, I think when you hit default on either of these, it's going to set all of the settings on both tabs to default. And so we need to be ready to set them all. So I'm not going to test it just yet. But we will have already clicked that. We'll come back to here, and then we need to set the gain, the white balance, and the saturation. So let's use the desktop flow. Thank goodness we spent an hour building a desktop flow. OBS. This one's going to be oh, you know what? We need to uncheck the white balance. I guess we'll do that next. So saturation. Now, when I set the saturation, it's 172. So highest value is 270 or 255. So 172. That's interesting. I may change it to not do 172, but instead like 175. And then because the max is 255, let's see how bad this is. If I change this from 172 to 180, there's not much of a difference there. If 180 plus 75 is 255, then I could do it in multiples of 25. Yeah, so I'm going to set it to 180. That's the goal now, the new goal. It was 172. But just because of math, it'll be easier this way. So for saturation, our goal is to change it by 75. And we're going to go to the left because it's going to go to the end. And then the group amount will be 25. So it should change from 255 to like 230, then to 205, and then to 180. So it should loop 3 times for that. Okay, then we're going to set this white balance. So let's go back over to camera control and copy the first one. This should effectively do the same thing. So let's paste it here. this should set the first checkbox that is enabled to false. And then we need to set the white balance. So let's copy this run desktop flow action. And we will change this from saturation to white balance. And obviously this is the one we tested on, so we know that works. We're going to go to the end. The relative value, I can't remember now. It was going to be like, 1,000. It's going to go to the left. And the groups are going to be 100. Then the gain is going to be 50. So we can do, we can copy this again. This time it's going to be gain for the label. It's going to send the home key to go to the beginning. The relative value is going to be 50. It's going to move to the right. And the group is going to be, probably could do 50 here actually to make it go faster. Let's go ahead and do 10 just to make sure that that works properly. And so it should basically loop that, 5 times. And do we hit apply and then done? Is that what happens next? Yes. So we click UI element in window. We want to click the apply button. Then we want to click the OK button. It might not really matter to do that, but that's the instructions that I found on a YouTube video where somebody was showing how to adjust these settings. And then once we click that OK button, apply OK, it's going to mess up the camera settings a little bit, I think, or what we're about to do will mess up the camera settings. So let's test what we have so far. Click OK. And I believe we might be missing a call to the subflow over, actually both subflows. So let's run subflow. First it does video settings, then camera control, then video proc amp. And understand, I haven't really named these super intuitively. Ordinarily, I would break up these actions into logical kind of groups, but instead, the only reason I'm setting these up separately on in separate subflows is just so that I don't have to scroll down super far in each of them. And maybe this first one even has too many actions in it, but that'll be fine. Okay, let's save this. I think that this should work. We're going to run this. Do we have... Okay, we have the window closed. OBS is open. Here we go. All right, here comes the window. Looks like it's setting things correctly. Configure. Goes to camera control. Oh, it worked. Zoom. Now it's over here. It should set saturation. Wow. Then it should set white balance. And then gain. Oh, I should probably put it like a message in the middle of that message box. And the video's not messed up. Is that cool or what? It only took us like 2 hours to get here. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and stop this. Now, the reason that I'm clicking out what I'm about to do is just because the instructions were given to me. On the YouTube video that I watched, the guy suggested to go out of your settings after you've configured video, then go into here and change the FPS now to highest FPS, and then go back in, fix anything that broke, and then you'd be good to go. Let's make a subflow. Okay, let's just name this like set follow-up settings, because I don't really know what else to call this, but we need to change the FPS now again. So let's go over to here and grab this. We're actually going to change just the FPS, and we're going to click configure video again. When I click it again, does it go to a different place? It does. Okay, so I'll have to do all that again. I probably should make this reusable, but I'm not gonna right now. So it should click FPS, and then the item it should choose though is not 30. It should be highest FPS. Then we click configure video again. We move the window again. And what happened after that? I guess we need to set the gain. So that's going to be here. I don't remember which one is the gain. I think it's this one. Okay, yeah. So we're just going to copy this. And set it again. And then after we've set the gain, then we need to click the OK button. Wait, I think we did that. Oh, apply and OK. So we'll copy those over. Once we've clicked apply and OK, we'll be back at this screen. It will say highest FPS right here, though, and we'll just click OK. We want this OK button. And then I guess it'll be done at that point. Yeah, so let's see if that's everything. Here we go. There's the window. Setting the initial settings, it put FPS to 30. Here's the properties window. It's doing the defaults. It's setting everything like it should be. It's going to do saturation, white balance, gain, and now it's done. Oh, wait, it's not done. It didn't click. I am actually the worst with remembering to run a subflow. Let's try this one more time with it actually running the follow-up settings. So let me close this, and it's just going to do everything again. Now, one thing as I watch this, I don't know if the color settings that I have are quite right. Obviously, what it is right now is the worst. Holy cow, look at that. It's because I have my lighting up very bright. So we got to turn the gain down really low on the camera so we get better quality. You make the camera not work as hard so that the camera quality is better. Okay. And now this time it changed to highest FPS and went back in, and it should be fixing the gain once again because that gets messed up when you change the FPS setting. It clicked OK, then clicked OK again, and it says I can record awesome videos now. Okay, well, I'm not satisfied with which subflows I put these various actions into, but I think it's pretty clear, right? This is kind of like a procedural thing. This runs, then this, then this, then this. And if something ever broke, even though I've duplicated some of the logic from one subflow to another, it wouldn't be that hard to adjust them both. And if it happens to be the element that breaks, all I have to do is change the element, because even though I've duplicated the actions across some subflows, they are using the same UI elements, like kind of reusing them and stuff. All right, well, let's pretend like we're, really using this. All right, so I expect what I do is, I would open up the Power Automate desktop console, and then I would run this one. So I don't run this one directly. I run this one, and it should just run. It doesn't do anything, doesn't say anything to me. But once it's done downloading, it's running. It should just sit there waiting for me to press Control O. And anytime I press it, it'll just kick off the flow, do it once, and then keep waiting. So here's what OBS looks like right now. I'm going to hit Control O. And it's going to go in and fix things. You can see it messes it up temporarily, but that's just because I have it clicking default and stuff. This is actually pretty reliable. Even when I was doing the POC for this, or, I was doing my own proof of concept for it, I found it to be very reliable without my even like putting exception handling or anything like that in. And of course it messes up the video temporarily once it fixes the FPS, and now it's back. Says I can record awesome videos now. Well, I don't know if it's an awesome video, but it's a long one, that's for sure. I definitely intended for this to be like a 20-minute video, but like I always do, that just doesn't work for me. Okay, so there is one thing that I missed that I realized when I was just running some tests afterward. We need to actually click the default button that is in here. So click configure video. I had been going into this and clicking default, thinking that this reset the values for all these and all these, but it looks like this default button actually is for this tab and this default button is for this tab. And that makes perfect sense. But for some reason, I thought it would affect all the tabs. So instead, we've got to click this default button too. And so let's go into the flow and change that. This would be when we're setting the video proc amp settings right at the top. So let's go here. We've got this camera control one. We've got it setting the clicking defaults. So we need to copy this. Wait, it's actually gonna be the second button. So copy that, and we're gonna paste it over here. Right here, before it does any of these slider controls. And let's just make sure that that button is gonna work. So we've got here, should be default. Yeah, so it's just gonna look for the default button. So it shouldn't matter which tab we're on, and that should work. So I'm gonna hit save, and then we'll just run this one more time as a test to make sure that it's good to go. Okay, we need to actually, so what we got to do is just mess this up a little bit. We'll turn the saturation all the way down. Should make me black and white, yeah. And we'll just click OK on this. Click OK. And we'll go Control O and make sure that it'll hit the default button on both of the tabs. Okay, that looks good. So we shouldn't have a problem. That way, if there's any settings that we don't mess with at all, it will put those back to their default value, even if I change them. All right. Well, that looks good. If you are still here, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.